Now the control cabin for the upper carriage is arriving, from which all movements of the crane will be controlled. Here is where the upper carriage cabin is mounted. The upper carriage cabin is the central control unit of the crane. The upper carriage cabin has two joysticks, which can exactly execute all movements of the crane. In just a few steps, the cabin is installed onto the upper carriage. Now we find out whether all the lines and cables have been laid correctly. With the computer simulator, various processes and scenarios are performed without the crane actually being put into action. This way, possible mistakes can be discovered and quickly fixed. With our test bench, wire harness tester, and different sensor cables, we have the possibility to simulate various load conditions and then make corrections or improvements if necessary. The ATF 400 is not only a powerhouse, but also a high-tech vehicle. Almost all of the functions are controlled from the touchscreen. Similar to aircraft construction, mechanical components and controls are completely replaced with electronic modules. Now we're coming to the highlight of every crane production, the so-called big marriage. Here, the complete crane is lifted with the help of these special lifting bands. The band alone can lift 15 tons. The additional chain can lift 20 tons. The upper carriage is then lifted and set onto the undercarriage. Different than in normal life, our marriages last practically a whole lifetime. The time has come. The multi-ton heavy upper carriage hovers over the production line and is set onto the undercarriage. Absolute precision is now needed because the men have to set the module exactly over the fixing bolts. Despite this being routine, the technicians are always a little tense during this process. First, the screws are lightly tightened using an air wrench and later completely tightened using a torque wrench. The torque wrench can apply about 1,400 Newton meters of torque. We could never manually apply that much force using a lug wrench. And once again, a made-in-Germany marriage has been performed, which is a guarantee for a long operating life on construction sites around the globe. Since our founding, innumerable vehicles have left our plant. The visions and patents of earlier designers and engineers represent a priceless wealth of experience on which the doers of today can build upon. The laws and values from that time have to be continually challenged and adapted to current market demands so that cranes can also be successfully built in the future. In every era of the company, the engineering skills were very influential and contributed to today's breakthrough on the ATF 400. Our engineers, technicians, and employees are proud to be able to maintain and expand this tradition. Here we are at the wheel alignment area. The technician is checking the exact spacing and correct dimensions with a laser instrument. This is where all data is brought up on the tablet and then checked to see which wheels need adjusting in order to be brought into the appropriate track. He will now perform this very task on every individual axle on the entire left side, as well as on the right side. Afterwards, he will go into the pit and perform the necessary adjustments. When all the axles have been measured, the super crane will have a final inspection and then be driven out of the first production hall to be prepared for the assembly of the big boom. The 60-meter-long boom is teeming with power. Two components are crucial here: lightweight and stability. That means the crane should be as lightweight as possible, but still have the ability to lift the largest payload as possible. The third factor is its variable length, which is designed using telescoping technology. We are now on the boom construction site. The boom is the heart of the mobile crane. You have to imagine the boom like the telescoping antennas that cars had earlier. When installed, it is rather small, but it can be extended for operational use. It is the same with the boom. The boom is made up of 5 parts, and when it is fully extended, it is 60 meters long. The assembly of the individual telescopes is also absolute precision work. Every one of these modules weighs several tons. The focal point is the cable pulley. Here we see the pulleys that have been mounted. The load line, which with the help of the pulleys lifts the payload, will later run through here. It is finally time. The ceiling crane will now mount the 5-piece boom onto the upper carriage, a decisive moment that demands the highest discipline from the specialists. Despite the enormous weight, the process looks almost easy. When the boom is set and all of the connections bolted into place, our super crane is as good as finished. The upper carriage and its boom have to deliver maximum performance, as does the undercarriage on a daily basis. Here, the brakes come particularly into focus because over 72 tons, or approximately 72 automobiles, have to be brought to a standstill. A crane shouldn't just be a crane. It should also drive well, in this case 85 kilometers per hour, following all safety regulations. It isn't just about the fact that the crane is mobile on the street, but rather that it is maneuverable in all situations on the construction site. That means that we need a tight radius, in this case 12 meters, and we need the lateral portability. That means the wheels are all individually steered and controlled. And all of that is a tremendous challenge, because during the construction of this technology, we naturally have to think about the weight. This design goes well beyond the construction of a regular truck, but we have once again been successful. Before this steel giant goes into service, it will be tested in all driving situations on the company's own test site. Bench testing is one thing. However, through practice, we can see in real terms whether all components, modules, and control units can function smoothly in all weather conditions and extremes. The undercarriage is brought to its limits through various driving situations. Later, the entire crane has to show on a different test field whether it delivers what the engineers promise. Here, at Tadano, various models of cranes are tested daily in different stress tests. On the one hand, the cranes are tested on function and hoisting capacity, and on the other hand, we are already drawing conclusions at this site, which further our technology. Every crane should be the best of its generation, but new models will be developed that are lighter, stronger, and higher than the previous models. On the outdoor area, various lattice jibs are mounted onto the boom to demonstrate variable forces and loads. Fully equipped, the ATF 400 reaches a maximum height of 125 meters. If the crane successfully passes the tests, then it goes to the paint shop. The workhorse is not only exposed to the weather, but on construction sites also to soil and rocks. The paint job has to be accordingly robust and scratch-resistant. The new owners let their creativity run wild when choosing colors. The painters spray multiple layers on the 17-meter-long and almost 4-meter-high vehicle. 2 men are busy with this almost an entire day. There are no dip tanks here like in the automobile industry. Here in the paint shop, every crane receives its individual color scheme. After extensive preparation, the crane is painted 2 times and coated with a special blend. Even the top coat is a special design, which has the task to protect the crane from weather and other environmental influences during operations, as well as additionally giving it a high-quality gloss. For the entire paint job on our ATF 400, we need 80 liters of primer and 140 liters of top coat. In total, we need over 400 hours to completely paint the crane. After completion of all the work, every crane is marked with the Tadano logo. Finally, the time has come. The new ATF 400 from Tadano is finished and rolls out of the hall. With 6 axles, 72 tons, and 653 horsepower, it leaves the production area on the run. For over 2 weeks, the mechanics worked on this powerhouse. Innumerable hours were invested into this high-tech vehicle. Now, it's time for it to go to work. The convoy, complete with escort vehicles, is headed to the world's biggest trade fair for construction machines in Munich. We are naturally in a position with this crane where we have to prepare for the setup very well. We have many elements that have to be delivered at the same time. We cannot make any mistakes during setup because we just do not have the possibility to send the crane away again. Because other vehicles have already taken up their position on the construction site or here at the trade fair. There are no second chances, and when something does happen, then it's associated with enormous costs. The construction of a mobile crane is one challenge, but the setting up of this giant is yet another. 4 professionals as well as an additional crane are necessary to put it together piece by piece. Alone, 10 semi-rigs are used for transporting the 76-meter lattice jib, the 138-ton counterweight, and various lifting accessories. When this powerhouse drives to the site, it is escorted by an entire convoy. The men will be busy for 2 days until the crane with the lattice jib finally can be put into action. If the weather worsens and strong winds arise, they need even more time. These 4 are an experienced team. The crane gets its ultimate test with them. For the first time, this giant is put together outside of the factory site. Completely extended, the crane tops even the towers of Munich's Church of Our Lady by over 20 meters. But not only the height is impressive, the force that develops on the boom is imposing. The mounted lattice jib alone weighs several tons and still has to lift the actual payload. In order to ensure that this can happen, additional safety devices will be mounted to the construction so that we can move several tons at a height of 125 meters. The crane passed its initiation rite and can now get to work. We were able to finish setting up the crane at exactly the right moment, fully equipped. That means with the 78-meter luffing jib and the suspension system. And now, even our stress has slowly faded. Nobody is very effective alone. The installation only works as a team. Even logistics, with 10 semi-trailers, over 100 tons of counterweight and jibs, has to work smoothly. And that demands professional execution from the plant as well, so that the parts arrive at the construction site at the right time, and so that we can start on time. But we finished everything, and tonight we can enjoy a nice cold beer. The ATF 400 is another example of the German art of engineering, as well as the label Made in Germany. With its innovative technology, the ATF 400 will set new standards over the next years at construction sites around the world, while in Tadano's plant, new visions for the cranes of the future are in sight.